So now we are ready to create a new process that would allow us to import data into the Goldmine system. And to start, we need to click on New Process, and that would allow us to define a process name. This process name should be something that defines or describes the intention of the process. In our case, we will just call it import contacts. And then we just click Save. Now that we have a new process defined, we can now specify what type of actions we need to take to actually import contact information into Goldmine. To do that, we need to select the option Import Contact Data. Notice that it's prompting us to specify a connection setting that points to our Goldmine system. We have defined these settings earlier in the previous videos. So in our case, we can simply select the login to Goldmine for the first option, and for the Goldmine SQL connection, we select our Goldmine SQL connection setting, and then we can click on OK. So right now, we are provided with a dialog that would allow us to define our data source and also define our field mappings. But first, we need to define our data source. As you can see, our drop-down box here for available data sources is currently empty. So let's define our data source. To do that, we have to click on this plus sign and click it. Select Read Data from a Text File. So this dialog is simply asking us to specify the file name for our data source. In our case, we have a sample data that we can use, and it contains sample records. Notice that the first row of the data contains the actual column names. So we need the first row to become the column names of the records. To do that, we simply need to select the first data row contains column names option. Also take note that the column names match the Goldmine field names. The other thing that we have to do is we need to define our destination table name. We can simply call this contacts and click Save. So now our import contact data dialog has identified that we now have a data source called contacts. So now we can save our initial settings, and this will now allow us to perform field mapping. So in this drop-down list, these are all your Goldmine field names. And on this other one contains the column names from the data source. So we can start mapping fields by selecting the match fields between the two and click on Add Field Mapping. In our case, we will stick to the standard field mapping, and we can click OK on this one. Then we can move on to maybe company. Click on Add Mapping, and we simply click on OK. However, there are a lot of field names here, and most likely, in your case, you might have more fields to import. So what we can do is, since our field names match the Goldmine field names, we can simply delete the one that we have here right now and select the option to automatically map the field names. So now we have our field names mapped to the same field names in Goldmine. What we have though is we have here a website and an email field from our data source. So those two we have to manually map them. So in our case, we select primary email and we say email and map and click OK. Let's see where that is in our grid. There. Let's add our primary website and add it as well. There you go. So that really completes our field mapping process within this interface. So now we are ready to import our data. So all we need to do is to click on Save and Close. So let's take a look at our Goldmine system. So in our case, we don't have any records available. So now we will try to import the data that we have from our data source. And to do that, we simply click on Run Process. And we click OK. So now if we switch back to our Goldmine system, we should see those records. We have 5 records. So notice that it had populated our company contact, essentially all the fields that we have mapped, in addition to the email address and the website.